Clara May Thornton pressed her dead husband's wedding ring against her lips one last time before dropping it into the Colorado River. 8 years of marriage, 8 years of memories, gone in the current like they'd never existed. "Goodbye, Thomas," she whispered. She didn't cry. She'd used up all her tears 3 winters ago when they'd lowered him into frozen ground. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man watching her from the ridge above would change everything she believed about second chances. If you want to know what happens to Clara, subscribe to our channel and follow her story to the very end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The stagecoach lurched violently, throwing Clara against the wooden seat. "Easy there, ma'am." The elderly gentleman across from her steadied himself against the window frame. "Driver's pushing hard. Must be trying to outrun something." Clara gripped her medical bag tighter. "Outrun what?" Before he could answer, a gunshot cracked through the afternoon air. "Everybody down!" the driver screamed from above. Clara's heart seized. She'd heard stories about stagecoach robberies, the violence, the killings. She'd told herself those things happened to other people, in other places. Not to widows starting over. Not to her. More gunshots. The horses screamed. The coach tilted dangerously as they took a curve too fast. "Lord have mercy," the old man breathed, clutching his Bible. Clara pressed herself against the floor, her face inches from the dusty boards. Through the window, she caught glimpses of riders, 4, maybe 5, gaining on them. Then the coach stopped. The silence that followed was worse than the gunfire. "Everybody out!" a harsh voice. "Now, or we start shooting through the walls!" Clara's hands trembled as she gathered her bag. The old man helped her to her feet, his face pale as chalk. "Stay behind me," he whispered. You'll what, old-timer?" The coach door ripped open. A man with rotting teeth and cruel eyes grinned at them. "Play hero?" He grabbed Clara's arm and yanked her out into the blinding sunlight. She stumbled, her knees hitting the hard dirt road. "Well, well," another man circled her, his spurs jingling with each step. "What do we have here?" Clara forced herself to look up. 4 outlaws. The driver slumped over his seat, bleeding from a head wound. The guard lay in the dirt, not moving at all. "Please," her voice came out steadier than she expected. "I'm a nurse. Let me help the injured, then take whatever you want." The leader, a tall man with a scar splitting his left eyebrow, laughed. "A nurse? Out here in the middle of nowhere?" "I'm on my way to Elk Ridge. They need a—" "Elk Ridge." He spat on the ground near her hand. "That's Callahan's territory." The name meant nothing to Clara, but it clearly meant something to the outlaws. They exchanged glances. "Maybe we keep her," the rotten-toothed one suggested. "Send a message to that self-righteous sheriff." Clara's blood ran cold. "Please, I have nothing of value, just medical supplies and—" "Shut up." The leader crouched down, his face inches from hers. "You're valuable now, sweetheart. Callahan's got a soft spot for helpless women." "I ain't helpless." The words came out before she could stop them. Something in her, something that had survived Thomas's death, survived the pitying looks of neighbors, survived the long, lonely nights, refused to cower. The outlaw's eyes narrowed. "What'd you say?" "I said I ain't helpless." Clara met his gaze. "And I ain't your sweetheart." For a moment, nobody moved. Then the leader backhanded her across the face. Clara's vision exploded into stars. She tasted blood. But she didn't cry out. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. "Tie her up," he ordered. "We're taking her with us." Rough hands grabbed her arms. Rope bit into her wrists. Clara struggled, but it was useless. 3 men against 1 woman who hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. "Stop fighting," one of them hissed in her ear. "Makes it worse." "Let her go." The voice came from somewhere behind the outlaws. Deep, calm, dangerous. Everyone turned. A man sat on a gray horse at the edge of the road, positioned like he'd been there all along, like he'd simply materialized from the dust and the heat. A silver star glinted on his chest. Callahan. The outlaw leader's hand moved toward his gun. "Wondered when you'd show up." "Let the woman go, Morgan. This ain't her fight." "It is now." Morgan yanked Clara to her feet, using her body as a shield. "She's mine. You want her? You come through me." Clara felt the cold barrel of a gun press against her temple. "Easy now." The sheriff, Callahan, raised one hand slowly. "Nobody needs to die today." "Wrong." Morgan's breath was hot against Clara's ear. "Somebody definitely needs to die. Question is whether it's going to be her or you." Clara's heart hammered so hard she could hear it in her ears. This was it. This was how she died. Not in a warm bed surrounded by grandchildren she'd never have, but in the middle of a dusty road, killed by a man whose name she didn't even know. "Thomas," she thought, "I'm coming to see you." "You got 3 seconds to drop your guns," Morgan called out. 1. Callahan didn't move. 2. Clara closed her eyes. 3. The gunshot was so loud, so close, that Clara screamed. But she wasn't hit. Morgan's grip loosened. He staggered backward, a bloom of red spreading across his shoulder. "Run!" Callahan shouted. Clara ran. She didn't know where she was going, just away, anywhere away from the gunfire erupting behind her. Her bound hands threw off her balance. She stumbled, caught herself, kept moving. A horse thundered up beside her. "Give me your hand!" Callahan leaned down from his saddle. Clara reached up, and he pulled her onto the horse in one fluid motion, settling her in front of him. "Hold on." She didn't need to be told twice. They rode hard, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. Clara pressed herself against the sheriff's chest, her bound hands clutching the saddle horn, her whole body shaking. After what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes, Callahan slowed the horse to a walk. "You hurt?" Clara shook her head, then realized he couldn't see her. "No, just my face. He hit me." A muscle tightened in the arm wrapped around her waist. "I saw." "The driver, the guard, are they—" "My deputies are handling it." His voice was flat, controlled. "Morgan's gang won't get far." Clara twisted to look at him for the first time. He was older than she'd expected. Early 40s, maybe. Gray threaded through dark hair that curled at his collar, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble. And eyes. Lord, those eyes. Gray as storm clouds, and just as troubled. "You're the nurse headed for Elk Ridge," he said. Not a question. "How did you know?" "Got a telegram last week. We've been waiting on you." A pause. "Didn't expect you to arrive like this." "I didn't exactly plan it." Something that might have been a smile flickered across his face. "Reckon not." He pulled a knife from his belt and cut the ropes binding her wrists. Clara rubbed the raw skin, wincing. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for saving my life." "Don't thank me yet. Morgan ain't the forgiving type. You're a target now." "I was just a passenger. I don't even know who he is." "Doesn't matter. You saw his face. You know he operates in this territory. And now he knows you're connected to me." "Connected to you?" Clara stiffened. "I just met you 5 minutes ago." "Try telling Morgan that." They rode in silence for a while. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, and Clara became acutely aware of how close she was to this stranger, his chest against her back, his arm around her waist. the steady rhythm of his breathing. "I can ride behind you," she offered. "This must be uncomfortable." "You're fine where you are." "But, ma'am," he spoke the word like a period at the end of a sentence. "You just survived an attempted kidnapping. You're shaking like a leaf in a windstorm. Let me get you to town in one piece. Then you can argue with me all you want." Clara opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. He had a point. "Fine," she muttered. "But my name's Clara. Clara Thornton. Not ma'am." Another almost smile. "Jesse Callahan." "I gathered." "Most people call me Sheriff." "I ain't most people." This time, he definitely smiled. "No, I don't reckon you are." Elk Ridge wasn't much to look at. A single main street lined with weathered buildings, a saloon, a general store, a church with a crooked steeple, and at the far end, a two-story structure with a sign that read, "Granger's Boarding House." But to Clara, after the terror of the past hour, it looked like heaven. "That's where you'll be staying." Jesse nodded toward the boarding house. "Bessie Granger runs a clean establishment. She'll take good care of you." He helped her dismount, his hands steady and impersonal. Professional. "The doctor's office is next to the general store," he continued. "Old Doc Whitmore. He'll be your associate, I suppose." Something in his tone made Clara look at him sharply. "Is there a problem with Dr. Whitmore?" "That's for you to decide." Before she could press further, a plump woman with silver-streaked hair came bustling out of the boarding house. "Lord have mercy!" She stopped short at the sight of Clara, dusty, bloodied, her dress torn at the shoulder. "What happened? Sheriff, what did you do to this poor woman?" "I didn't do anything, Bessie. Morgan's gang hit the stagecoach." Bessie's face paled. "Morgan? This close to town?" "We'll talk about it later." Jesse's voice carried a warning. "Right now, Mrs. Thornton needs rest and a hot meal." Of course, of course." Bessie took Clara's arm with surprising gentleness. "Come inside, honey. Let's get you cleaned up." Clara allowed herself to be led toward the boarding house, but paused at the steps. "Sheriff Callahan." He was already mounting his horse, but he stopped. "Yes?" "Will I see you again?" She didn't know why she asked it, didn't know why his answer mattered. Jesse's eyes met hers across the dusty street. "Elk Ridge is a small town, Mrs. Thornton. You'll see me whether you want to or not." Then he tipped his hat and rode away. The room Bessie gave her was small but clean, with a window that looked out over the main street and a bed that felt like clouds after the hard stagecoach seats. "You rest now." Bessie set a basin of warm water on the washstand. "I'll bring supper up later." "Thank you, Mrs. Granger." "Bessie. Everyone calls me Bessie." The older woman paused at the door. "And honey, don't let today scare you off. Elk Ridge is a good town, good people. We need someone like you." "Like me?" "Someone who runs toward trouble instead of away from it." Bessie smiled. "The sheriff told me what you did, how you stood up to Morgan. That took courage. That took stupidity," Clara corrected quietly. "Sometimes they're the same thing." After Bessie left, Clara sat on the bed and finally allowed herself to fall apart. The shaking came first, then the tears she'd been holding back since the first gunshot. She pressed her face into the pillow to muffle her sobs, her whole body convulsing with delayed terror. She could have died today. She'd been ready to die. That was what frightened her most. When Clara woke, the room was dark and someone was pounding on her door. "Mrs. Thornton! Mrs. Thornton, please wake up!" She stumbled out of bed, disoriented. "What is it?" "There's been an accident at the mine." Bessie's voice was frantic through the door. "Men are hurt. Doc Whitmore is unavailable. We need you." Clara was already reaching for her medical bag. "I'm coming." She threw open the door to find Bessie wringing her hands, a lantern casting wild shadows on the walls. "How many injured?" "At least 4, maybe more. A tunnel collapsed." Clara's training took over, pushing aside her exhaustion. "Where?" "The sheriff's bringing them to Doc Whitmore's office. It's the only place with enough space." They rushed down the stairs and out into the night. The main street, so quiet before, was now chaos. Men shouting, horses stamping, women clutching each other in doorways. And in the middle of it all, Jesse Callahan. He was carrying a man over his shoulders, the unconscious miner's blood soaking through his shirt. When he saw Clara, something flickered in those gray eyes. "This way," he said. She followed him to a small building she hadn't noticed before. Inside, 3 men already lay on cots, groaning in pain. The air smelled of blood and whiskey. "Where's the doctor?" Clara demanded. Jesse jerked his head toward a back room. "Passed out drunk. Been that way since noon." Clara bit back a curse. "Fine. I need hot water, clean cloth, and more light. Now." For a moment, Jessie just stared at her. "Sheriff," she snapped her fingers in front of his face. "People are dying. Move." He moved. For the next 3 hours, Clara worked. She set bones. She stitched wounds. She held a man's hand while he screamed as she removed debris from his crushed leg. And through it all, Jesse stayed. He did what she told him, held patients down, fetched supplies, kept the curious townspeople at bay. He never questioned her authority, never undermined her competence. When the last patient was stable and dawn was breaking through the windows, Clara finally allowed herself to collapse into a chair. "You saved their lives." She looked up. Jesse stood in the doorway, his shirt still stained with other men's blood. "They're not out of danger yet," she said. "The leg wound could still get infected. And Thomas, the one with the head injury, I won't know if there's brain damage until he wakes up. But they're alive. Because of you." Clara shook her head. "I just did what needed doing." "That's more than most people manage." Silence stretched between them. In the harsh morning light, Clara could see the exhaustion etched into Jesse's face, the shadows under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders that never seemed to ease. "How long has the doctor been like this?" she asked quietly. 6 months, maybe longer." Jesse rubbed a hand over his face. "His wife died. The bottle's been his comfort since." "Has anyone tried to help him?" "Folks have tried. He doesn't want help, just wants to be left alone with his grief." Clara thought of Thomas, of the months after his death when she'd wanted nothing more than to disappear into darkness and never come back. "Grief makes people do desperate things," she said. Jesse's eyes met hers. Something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. "You'd know something about that, wouldn't you, Mrs. Thornton?" It wasn't really a question. "I go by Widow Thornton, usually," she said. "But yes, I know about grief." "How'd you survive it?" The question was so direct, so unexpected, that Clara answered honestly. "I didn't, for a long time. I just kept breathing, one day at a time, until one day, breathing stopped feeling like a punishment and started feeling like a choice." Jesse was quiet for a long moment. "That's a good answer," he finally said. "Is that why you asked? Because you need an answer?" His expression shuddered. "I should let you rest. Bessie will be wondering where you are." He turned to leave. "Sheriff," he paused. "Whatever you're carrying," Clara said softly, "you don't have to carry it alone." Jesse didn't turn around. "You don't know what I'm carrying." "No, but I know what it looks like. I see it in the mirror every morning." For a moment, she thought he might say something, might turn around, might let her in. Instead, he walked out into the morning sun and closed the door behind him. Clara stared at that closed door for a long time. Then she got up to check on her patients. By the end of her first week in Elk Ridge, Clara had delivered a baby, treated 3 cases of influenza, and extracted a bullet from a cowboy who'd been shot in a misunderstanding at the saloon. The townspeople, initially wary of a woman doctor, began warming to her after the mine collapse. Women brought her pies. Men tipped their hats. Children ran up to show her scrapes and bruises, more interested in the attention than in actual treatment. But there was one person who seemed determined to avoid her: Jesse Callahan. Oh, she saw him plenty. Elk Ridge was small enough that she couldn't walk down the main street without running into him. But every time she approached, he found somewhere else to be. Every time she tried to start a conversation, he cut it short with professional politeness and a tip of his hat. It shouldn't have bothered her. She had plenty to keep her busy. Plenty of patients who actually wanted her help. But it did bother her, for reasons she wasn't ready to examine. "He's avoiding you," Bessie observed one evening over dinner. Clara nearly choked on her soup. "What?" "The sheriff. He's avoiding you like you've got the plague." Bessie's eyes twinkled. "Which means he's interested." "Interested?" Clara felt her face heat. "That's ridiculous. He barely speaks to me." "Exactly. Jesse Callahan barely speaks to anyone. But with you, he barely speaks in a very specific way. That doesn't make any sense." "Men rarely do, honey." Bessie patted her hand. "Give him time. He's got his reasons for keeping people at arm's length." "What reasons?" But Bessie just shook her head. "That's his story to tell, if he ever chooses to tell it." That night, Clara lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She thought about Thomas, about the life they'd planned together, about the children they'd never have, and the home they'd never build. She thought about how long it had been since someone looked at her as something other than a widow, something other than a sad story. And she thought about Jesse Callahan's gray eyes and the way he'd asked her how she survived grief, like he needed the answer for himself. The confrontation came sooner than she expected. Clara was walking back from visiting a patient on the outskirts of town when she heard voices raised in anger. "Told you to stay away from Elk Ridge," Jesse's voice, sharp with fury. "Free country, Sheriff. Can't stop a man from traveling." Clara recognized that second voice. Her blood went cold. She crept closer, keeping to the shadows between buildings. Through a gap in the boards, she saw them. Jesse, his hand on his gun, facing down Morgan. The outlaw's arm was in a sling, his face pale from blood loss. But his eyes burned with hatred. "You shot me," Morgan said. "Put a hole right through my shoulder. Doc says I might never use this arm proper again." "Should have aimed for your head." "Maybe you should have, because now I'm going to take everything you love and burn it to the ground, starting with that pretty nurse of yours." Jesse's jaw tightened. "She ain't mine." "No?" Morgan laughed. "Whole town's talking about how you rode in like a white knight to save her, how you stayed by her side all night at the doc's office. Face it, Callahan, she's your weakness, and I'm going to exploit it. You come near her, I'll kill you." "There it is," Morgan grinned, showing teeth. "The truth. You care about her, which means she's dead already. She just doesn't know it yet." Clara's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a gasp. But it wasn't stifled enough. Morgan's eyes snapped toward her hiding place. "Well, well, speaking of the lady." Jesse spun around. "Clara, get out of here!" But Morgan was already moving, drawing a gun with his good hand. "Don't think so. I came here to send a message. Might as well deliver it personally." "Run!" Jesse shouted. Clara ran. She heard the gunshot, heard Jesse cry out. But she kept running, just like he told her to, her heart breaking with every step. Then she stopped. She was tired of running, tired of being the victim, tired of losing people she cared about because she wasn't strong enough to fight. Clara turned around. She walked back toward the alley, her hands steady even though her heart was pounding. Morgan stood over Jesse's crumpled body, gun pointed at his head. "Stop." The word came out clear and strong. Morgan looked up, genuinely surprised. "You came back?" "I said stop." Clara kept walking. "You want a hostage? Fine. Take me. But let him live." "Clara, no!" Jesse tried to rise, but Morgan kicked him back down. "Shut up." Morgan studied Clara with new interest. "You'd trade yourself for him?" "Yes." "Why?" Clara didn't answer. Didn't know the answer herself. All she knew was that she couldn't watch another person she cared about die. Not again. Not ever again. "Interesting." Morgan tilted his head. "Very interesting." He raised his gun toward her. Clara didn't flinch. "Morgan!" A new voice, deputy's voice. Suddenly the alley filled with men. Deputies, townspeople, all armed, all pointing at Morgan. The outlaw's face twisted with rage. "This ain't over, Callahan. You hear me? This ain't over." But he was surrounded, outnumbered, and he knew it. As they led him away in chains, Clara rushed to Jesse's side. "Are you hurt? Where did he shoot you?" Jesse groaned, pressing a hand to his ribs. "Just grazed me. I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're bleeding." "Clara." He caught her wrist. His eyes, those storm-gray eyes, locked onto hers. "Why did you come back?" "Because I couldn't let you die." "You barely know me." "I know enough." They stared at each other, the chaos of the arrest swirling around them. Deputies shouting, townspeople gathering. But in that moment, there was only the two of them. "You're the most foolish woman I've ever met," Jesse said quietly. "And you're the most stubborn man." "Reckon that makes us a matched pair." Despite everything, Clara smiled. And for the first time since Thomas died, the smile felt real. The bullet wound on Jesse's ribs wasn't deep, but Clara insisted on treating it properly. "Sit down," she ordered, pointing to the chair in Doc Whitmore's office. "I told you, it's just a scratch. And I told you to sit down." Jesse sat. Clara worked in silence, cleaning the wound with steady hands. She could feel his eyes on her face, watching her the way he watched everything, careful, guarded, missing nothing. "You shouldn't have come back," he said quietly. "You keep saying that." "Because it's true." Clara pressed a cloth against the wound harder than necessary. He winced. "Sorry," she said, not sorry at all. "Must have slipped." "You're angry." "I'm frustrated." She met his eyes. "You push everyone away. You act like accepting help is some kind of weakness. And then you nearly get yourself killed in an alley because you're too proud to wait for backup." "I had it under control." "You had a gun pointed at your head, and then you showed up and made yourself a target. Someone had to do something." They glared at each other, both breathing hard. "Why do you care?" Jesse asked. "You've known me a week." Clara opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do, and that terrifies me." Something shifted in Jesse's expression. The hardness cracked, just for a moment, revealing something raw underneath. "Clara?" The door burst open. "Sheriff!" Deputy Miller stood in the doorway, hat in hand, face flushed. "Morgan's talking. Says he'll give up his whole gang's hideout location. But he'll only talk to you." Jesse was on his feet instantly, reaching for his shirt. "You're not going anywhere," Clara protested. "You just got shot." Grazed. He pulled on his shirt, wincing as the fabric brushed the fresh bandage. "There's a difference." "There's not that much of a difference." But he was already walking out the door. Clara threw her hands up in frustration. "Impossible, man." From the back room, a hoarse voice laughed. She turned to find Doc Whitmore sitting up on his cot, looking like death warmed over, but at least conscious. "He gets under your skin," the old doctor observed. "That's good. Means you're human. It means I'm an idiot. Same thing sometimes." Whitmore ran a shaky hand through his thinning hair. "I heard what you did. During the mine collapse, you saved those men." Clara shrugged. "You would have done the same?" "No." His voice cracked. "I wouldn't have. I would have been passed out drunk in that back room while good men died." The self-loathing in his words was so raw, so familiar, that Clara sank into the chair Jesse had just vacated. "Dr. Whitmore." "Samuel," he laughed bitterly. "If you're going to watch me destroy myself, you might as well use my first name." "Samuel." Clara leaned forward. "What happened to your wife?" The question hung in the air between them. "Typhoid," Samuel finally said. 2 years ago. I was supposed to be the one who saved people. That was my job, my calling. And I couldn't save the one person who mattered most. So you decided to stop saving anyone. I decided to stop feeling. Whiskey's good for that." Clara thought of her own dark days. The nights she'd wished she could disappear. The mornings she'd had to force herself to keep breathing. "It doesn't work," she said softly. "Numbing the pain. It just delays it." "I know." Samuel's eyes were red-rimmed, haunted. "But delaying it is all I can manage right now." Clara reached out and took his hand. "Then let me help you manage, one day at a time." For a long moment, Samuel just stared at her. "Why would you do that? You don't know me." "I know grief," Clara said. "And I know what it's like to think you're beyond saving. Someone helped me once, when I was drowning. Maybe it's my turn to return the favor." Samuel's chin trembled. "I don't deserve help." "Maybe not, but you're getting it anyway." She squeezed his hand once, then stood up. "I'll be back tomorrow. Try to eat something that isn't liquid." For the first time in what was probably months, Samuel almost smiled. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. Word had spread about Clara's confrontation with Morgan, and suddenly she was the talk of Elk Ridge. "Is it true you offered yourself as a hostage?" the blacksmith's wife asked while Clara examined her swollen ankle. "It wasn't that dramatic. Mrs. Patterson says you walked right up to that outlaw with a gun in your face and didn't even flinch." Mrs. Patterson exaggerates, but the woman's eyes shone with something like admiration. "We haven't had anyone stand up to those men before. Not like that." Clara didn't know what to say, so she focused on wrapping the ankle. Later that afternoon, she was organizing medical supplies when a small face appeared at the window. A boy, maybe 11 or 12, dirty face, torn clothes, eyes too old for his years. "You the new doc?" he asked. "I'm the new nurse. What's your name?" "Tommy. Tommy McCrae." He climbed through the window like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I heard you're the one who faced down Morgan." "Does everyone in this town know about that?" "Pretty much." Tommy perched on the edge of the examination table. "Is it true you're sweet on the sheriff?" Clara choked on air. "What? No, who told you that?" Everyone. Tommy shrugged like it was obvious. The way he looks at you, the way you look at him, even I can see it, and I'm just a kid. There's nothing between Sheriff Callahan and me. If you say so. Tommy's tone suggested he didn't believe her for a second. Anyway, I didn't come here to talk about your love life. Thank goodness for that. I came because my arm hurts. He held up his left arm, which Clara now noticed was hanging at an odd angle. I think I broke it. Clara's professional instincts kicked in immediately. She crossed to him, gently taking the arm in her hands. How did this happen? Tommy's expression flickered. Fell. Fell from where? Just fell. Clara had seen enough abused children to recognize the signs. The way he wouldn't meet her eyes. The old bruises barely visible under the dirt on his neck. Tommy, she kept her voice gentle. Who did this to you? Nobody. I told you, I fell. You didn't fall. This is a defensive fracture. Someone grabbed your arm and twisted it. Tommy's jaw tightened. You gonna fix it or not? Clara wanted to push, wanted to demand answers, but she'd learned long ago that trust couldn't be forced. I'm going to fix it, she said, but this is going to hurt. I can handle pain. Something about the way he said it broke her heart. She set the bone as quickly and carefully as she could. Tommy didn't make a sound, but tears streamed down his face. You're very brave, Clara said, splinting the arm. I'm not brave. I'm just used to it. Tommy, don't. His voice cracked. Don't be nice to me. I can't handle nice right now. Clara understood that too. Sometimes kindness hurt worse than cruelty because it reminded you of everything you didn't have. Okay, she said. I won't be nice. I'll be practical. You need to come back in 3 days so I can check the splint. You need to keep the arm elevated, and you need to eat something, your skin and bones. Yes, ma'am. And Tommy? She waited until he looked at her. If anyone hurts you again, you come to me. Understand? For just a moment, his tough facade cracked, and she saw the scared little boy underneath. Why would you help me? I'm nobody. Nobody is nobody, Clara said firmly. Now get out of here before someone sees you crying and ruins your reputation. Tommy almost smiled. Almost. Then he was gone, slipping out the window as silently as he'd come. Clara stared after him, her heart aching. He's one of the mine orphans. She spun around to find Jessie standing in the doorway. How long have you been there? Long enough. He stepped inside, his expression unreadable. Tommy's father died in a cave-in 2 years ago. Mother ran off before that. He's been living on the streets ever since. And no one helps him? People have tried. He runs away, steals food, gets into fights. Jessie's jaw tightened. The boy's got more walls than a fortress. Someone's hurting him. I know. Then do something about it. I've tried. Jessie's voice was rough with frustration. Every time I get close, he disappears. Kid's like a ghost. Clara thought of Tommy's old eyes, his acceptance of pain, his flinch when she'd tried to be kind. He came to me, she said slowly. He let me help him. I noticed. Maybe I can get through to him, find out who's hurting him. Jessie was quiet for a long moment. You've been here 2 weeks, he finally said. You've saved miners, stood up to outlaws, started sobering up the town drunk, and now you're planning to rescue orphans? Do you ever stop? Do you? That's different. How? I'm the sheriff. It's my job. And I'm a nurse. Helping people is my job, too. They stared at each other across the small room. You're going to get yourself killed, Jessie said quietly. Then I'll die doing something that matters. Something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like respect. There's a town social next Saturday, he said abruptly. Bessie's organizing it. She'll want you there. Clara blinked at the sudden change of subject. Are you asking me to go with you? No, I'm telling you it's happening. He turned toward the door. What you do about it is your business. Jessie, he paused. Will you be there? A beat of silence. Probably. Then he was gone. Clara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Impossible, man, she muttered again. But this time, she was smiling. The week before the social passed quickly. Clara fell into a rhythm, treating patients during the day, checking on Samuel in the evenings, keeping an eye out for Tommy whenever she could. The boy showed up 3 more times, always through the window, always with some injury he claimed was from falling. Clara didn't push. She just treated him, fed him whatever food she had on hand, and let him talk when he wanted to. Slowly, painfully slowly, he began to open up. The other kids call me names, he admitted one evening, picking at a biscuit Clara had given him. Say I'm cursed. Say that's why my pa died and my ma left. That's not true. How do you know? Because curses aren't real. People leave and people die. It's not your fault. Tommy was quiet for a long moment. My pa used to say I was his good luck charm. His voice wobbled. Guess he was wrong. Clara's heart clenched. Tommy, I gotta go. He was up and at the window before she could stop him. Thanks for the biscuit. Same time tomorrow? He paused, half in and half out of the window. Maybe. It was the closest thing to a commitment she'd gotten from him yet. The night of the social arrived with unexpected nervousness. Clara stood in front of Bessie's small mirror, fussing with her hair for the 10th time. You look beautiful, Bessie assured her. Stop fidgeting. I'm not fidgeting, I'm adjusting. You're fidgeting because a certain sheriff is going to be there. That has nothing to do with it. Of course not, Bessie's eyes twinkled. Just like the sun has nothing to do with daylight. Clara gave up on her hair. Is it that obvious? Honey, the whole town's taking bets on when you two will stop dancing around each other. We're not dancing around anything. We barely talk. That's what I mean. Bessie patted her cheek. The loudest conversations are the ones people are afraid to have. The social was held in the town's small community hall, which had been decorated with ribbons and wildflowers. A 3-piece band played in the corner, and tables laden with food lined the walls. Clara had barely stepped through the door when she spotted Jesse. He stood near the back, arms crossed, watching the crowd with that guarded expression she'd come to know so well. He'd cleaned up for the occasion, fresh shirt, hair combed, jaw freshly shaved. He looked good, really good. Their eyes met across the room. Something electric passed between them. Then a woman stepped into Clara's line of sight, blocking her view. You must be the famous Widow Thornton. The woman was beautiful. Perfectly coiffed blonde hair, expensive dress, smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm Patricia Holloway. She extended a gloved hand. I've heard so much about you. Clara shook her hand. I'm afraid I haven't heard much about you. Oh, I keep a low profile. Just a simple widow trying to get by. Patricia's eyes flickered toward Jessie. Though I suppose we have that in common. Being widows, I mean. I suppose we do. How are you finding Elk Ridge? It must be quite an adjustment coming from, where was it? Back east somewhere? Pennsylvania. Ah, civilization. Patricia laughed lightly. I do miss it sometimes. The culture, the society. the men who know how to properly court a woman. Clara felt her spine stiffen. The men here seem perfectly adequate. Do they? Patricia's smile sharpened. I suppose Sheriff Callahan has been welcoming? He's been professional. Professional? Yes, that's Jesse. Always so proper, so controlled. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. But you should know, he and I have an understanding. We've been keeping company for almost a year now. The words hit Clara like a punch to the gut. I see, she managed. I just thought you should know, so there's no confusion. Patricia patted her arm with false sympathy. Small towns can be so full of gossip. I'd hate for you to get the wrong idea about his attention. Before Clara could respond, Patricia glided away, heading straight for Jesse. Clara watched as the blonde woman touched his arm, leaned close, whispered something that made him nod. Something ugly twisted in Clara's chest. Don't let her get to you. She turned to find Samuel beside her, looking more sober and alert than she'd ever seen him. You came, she said, surprised. You said one day at a time, he shrugged. Today's a day. I'm proud of you. Don't be. I nearly drank myself unconscious 3 times just getting dressed. He nodded toward Patricia. She's lying, by the way. About what? About her and Jesse. There's no understanding. She's been throwing herself at him for months. He's not interested. How do you know? Because I know Jesse. And I know what he looks like when he's interested in someone. Samuel's eyes met hers meaningfully. That ain't it. Clara felt something loosen in her chest. Why are you telling me this? Because you gave me hope when I had none. Figured I'd return the favor. Before Clara could thank him, the band struck up a waltz. Mrs. Thornton. Jesse stood before her, hand extended, expression carefully neutral. Sheriff? Clara's heart hammered. I thought you were occupied. I'm not. His eyes held hers. Dance with me. It wasn't a question. Clara took his hand. The moment they touched, everything else faded. The music, the crowd, Patricia's poisonous words. There was only Jesse's hand at her waist, his fingers intertwined with hers, the careful distance he maintained between their bodies. Patricia told me you two have an understanding, Clara heard herself say. Jesse's jaw tightened. Patricia tells people a lot of things. Most of them aren't true. So you're not courting her? I'm not courting anyone. Then why are you dancing with me? He was quiet for a moment, guiding her through a turn with surprising grace. Because I wanted to, he finally said. Because for once I did something I wanted instead of something I should. Clara's breath caught. Jesse, don't. His voice was rough. Don't make this into something it can't be. Why can't it be something? Because people around me get hurt. Because I've got enemies who'd use you against me. Because... He stopped abruptly. Because what? Because I'm not the man you think I am. His eyes were anguished. I've done things, Clara. Things that would make you look at me different. Like what? The music swelled around them. Jesse pulled her slightly closer, close enough that she could feel his breath on her hair. During the war, he said, so quietly she had to strain to hear, I killed a boy, 14 years old. He was wearing a Confederate uniform, but he was just a child. I shot him before I even realized... His voice broke. It was war, Clara whispered. You were following orders. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't bring him back. Jesse's hand trembled against her waist. I see his face every night, every single night for 15 years. Clara understood now. The walls, the distance, the way he pushed everyone away. He wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting them from the monster he thought he was. "Jesse." She stopped dancing, forcing him to stop too. "Look at me." He did. His eyes were wet. "What happened in the war was terrible, but it doesn't define you. The man you are now, the man who protects this town, who saves strangers on stagecoaches, who worries about orphaned boys, that's who you really are." "You don't know." "I know enough." She reached up and touched his face, not caring who was watching. "I know that you're carrying a weight that's crushing you. And I know that you don't have to carry it alone." For a long, breathless moment, they stood frozen in the middle of the dance floor. Then Jesse pulled away. "I can't," he said hoarsely. "Clara, I can't." A scream split the air. Everyone in the hall froze. "Fire!" someone shouted. "The boarding house is on fire!" Jesse was moving before Clara could react. She hiked up her skirts and ran after him. Outside, chaos reigned. Orange flames licked up the side of Bessie's boarding house, smoke billowing into the night sky. "Bessie!" Clara screamed. "Is Bessie inside?" "She's safe," someone called. "Got out the back." But Jesse wasn't stopping. He was running toward the building. "Jesse, no!" He didn't listen. Clara watched in horror as he disappeared into the burning building. Seconds stretched into eternity. The flames grew higher. The crowd murmured, prayed, cried. And then Jesse emerged from the inferno, carrying something in his arms. Someone. Tommy. Clara ran to meet them. Jesse collapsed to his knees, laying the unconscious boy on the ground. His shirt was singed, his face streaked with ash. "He was hiding in the attic," Jesse gasped. "He wasn't breathing." Clara was already working, clearing Tommy's airway, checking his pulse. "Come on," she muttered. "Come on, Tommy, don't you dare." She breathed into his mouth, pressed on his chest, breathed again. "Please," she whispered. "Please." Tommy coughed. His eyes flew open, wild with terror. "You're safe," Clara told him, tears streaming down her face. "You're safe. I've got you." The boy's hand found hers and gripped tight. "Don't leave me," he begged. "Please, don't leave me." "Never." Clara pulled him into her arms. "I'll never leave you." Over Tommy's head, her eyes met Jesse's. Something passed between them. Something that went beyond words, beyond walls, beyond all the reasons why this couldn't work. The fire crackled and roared behind them, but all Clara could see was Jesse's face in the firelight, and the tears cutting tracks through the ash on his cheeks. Tommy refused to let go of Clara's hand, even hours later, after the fire had been extinguished and the townspeople had dispersed. The boy clung to her like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to destroy him. "You need to sleep," Clara said gently, stroking his soot-stained hair. "Can't." His voice was raw from smoke. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the flames." They'd set up in Doc Whitmore's office, the only place Clara could think of that had beds and wasn't burned or smoke-damaged. Samuel had quietly made himself scarce, giving them privacy. "Who did this, Tommy?" Clara asked for the third time. "Who set that fire?" The boy's grip tightened. "I can't tell you." "Why not?" "Because they'll kill me." His whole body trembled. "They said they'd kill me if I told anyone." Clara's blood ran cold. "Who said that? Tommy, please." "Mrs. Thornton." Jesse's voice came from the doorway. "A word?" She looked down at Tommy, torn. "Go," the boy whispered. "I ain't going nowhere." Clara reluctantly released his hand and followed Jesse outside. The night air still smelled of smoke, and somewhere in the distance, she could hear people still working to make sure the fire was completely out. The fire was set deliberately, Jesse said without preamble. We found kerosene around the back of the building. Who would do this? Someone who wanted to send a message. Jesse's jaw was tight. Someone who knew Tommy was hiding there. The implication hit Clara like a fist. This was about Tommy? Someone tried to kill a child? Someone tried to kill a witness. Jesse ran a hand through his ash-covered hair. I've been digging into who's been hurting him. There's a man, Silas Crane, runs a gang of orphans, uses them to steal, pickpocket, run errands for outlaws. Anyone who tries to leave gets beaten, or worse. Tommy must have seen something, or knows something, something worth killing for. Clara thought of the boy inside, so small and so scared. What do we do? We keep him safe, and we find Silas Crane before he tries again. How? Jesse was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I'm going to need Tommy to tell me what he knows. Everything he knows. He's terrified, Jesse. He won't. Then you need to convince him. His eyes met hers. He trusts you. Maybe more than he's ever trusted anyone. If anyone can get through to him, it's you. Clara wanted to argue, wanted to protect Tommy from having to relive whatever horrors he'd witnessed. But she knew Jesse was right. Give me time, she said. Let me talk to him first. Jesse nodded. I'll post a deputy outside. No one gets in or out without my say-so. Jesse, she caught his arm as he turned to leave. Thank you for saving him. Something flickered in his expression. I wasn't going to let him die. You could have. You ran into a burning building for a boy most people in this town consider worthless. He's not worthless, Jesse's voice was rough. No child is worthless. Clara thought of the 14-year-old soldier Jesse had killed in the war, the guilt he still carried. Is that why you did it? She asked softly. Because of the boy you couldn't save? Jesse flinched like she'd struck him. Clara, I'm not judging you. I'm trying to understand. For a long moment, he didn't speak. When he did, his voice was barely audible. Every child I save, I tell myself it makes up for the one I killed. But it doesn't. Nothing does. He pulled away from her touch. Get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be hard. Then he was gone, disappearing into the smoke-hazed night. Clara stood alone in the darkness, her heart aching for a man who wouldn't let himself be loved. Morning came too soon. Clara had dozed fitfully in a chair beside Tommy's bed, jerking awake every time the boy whimpered in his sleep. By the time pale light crept through the windows, she felt like she'd been trampled by horses. Tommy was already awake, watching her with those two old eyes. You stayed, he said. I told you I would. People say lots of things they don't mean. Clara leaned forward, taking his uninjured hand in hers. Tommy, I need you to tell me about Silas Crane. The boy went rigid. How do you know that name? Sheriff Callahan told me. He's trying to help you, but he needs to know what you know. I can't. Someone tried to kill you last night. Clara kept her voice gentle but firm. If we don't stop them, they'll try again. And next time, there might not be anyone to pull you out of the fire. Tommy's lower lip trembled. For a moment, he looked exactly like what he was. A scared 12-year-old boy who'd seen too much. If I tell you, he whispered, promise you won't let them hurt me? I promise. Promise you won't send me away? Clara's throat tightened. I promise, Tommy. I will never send you away. The boy took a shaky breath. Silas Crane runs things in the shadows. The stealing, the pickpocketing, that's just the small stuff. The real money comes from the outlaws. What do you mean? Crane works with them, Morgan's gang, others too. He gets information. Who's traveling with money, when the payroll shipments come in, which routes the stagecoaches take. Kids like me, we hear things, see things. Nobody notices us. Clara felt sick. He uses children as spies. And worse. Tommy's voice dropped. Last month, I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Crane meeting with a man. A rich man, fancy clothes. They were talking about the sheriff. About Jesse? Tommy nodded. The fancy man said Callahan was getting too close. Said he needed to be dealt with. Crane said he knew people who could make it happen. Clara's blood turned to ice. Tommy, do you know who the fancy man was? No, but I'd recognize him if I saw him again. The boy's eyes were haunted. That's why they want me dead. I'm the only witness. Clara's mind raced. Someone was plotting against Jesse. Someone wealthy enough to afford fancy clothes in a mining town. Someone connected to both Silas Crane and Morgan's gang. I need to tell the sheriff, she said. No, Tommy grabbed her arm. If Crane finds out I talked, he'll kill everyone I care about. That's what he does. That's how he keeps us quiet. Tommy, he killed Billy's sister right in front of him. Said it was a warning. Tears streamed down the boy's face. I don't want anyone else to die because of me. Clara pulled him into her arms, holding him while he sobbed. Listen to me, she said fiercely. You are not responsible for what evil men do. You're a child. A brave, strong child who survived things that would break most adults. And I swear to you, on my husband's grave, I will not let anyone hurt you or anyone you care about. How can you promise that? Because I'm not alone. Clara pulled back, wiping his tears with her thumb. The sheriff is a good man. He'll protect you. I'll protect you. But you have to trust us. Can you do that? Tommy looked at her for a long moment. I can try, he finally whispered. It was enough. Clara found Jesse in his office, poring over papers with dark circles under his eyes. Did you sleep at all? She asked. Did you? That's not an answer. Neither was yours. Despite everything, Clara almost smiled. We need to talk, privately. Jesse's expression sharpened. He stood, closing the door and checking the window before turning back to her. Tommy talked. He told me everything. Clara relayed what the boy had said. Silas Crane, the conspiracy, the mysterious wealthy man plotting against Jesse. As she spoke, Jesse's face grew darker and darker. Someone's been feeding information to Morgan's gang for months, he said when she finished. I suspected there was a leak, but I couldn't figure out who. Now you know. Crane is the connection. Crane is a middleman. The real question is, who's pulling his strings? Jesse began pacing. A wealthy man, fancy clothes. Who in Elkridge fits that description? Patricia Holloway's husband was wealthy before he died. Jesse shook his head. Patricia's a nuisance, not a criminal. Besides, she was at the social when the fire started. Then who? I don't know. Jesse slammed his fist against the desk. But I'm going to find out. Tommy said he'd recognize the man if he saw him again. We can't parade every wealthy man in the territory past a 12-year-old and hope he points to the right one. Then we find another way. Clara stepped closer. Jesse, someone is trying to kill you. This isn't just about Tommy anymore. It was never just about Tommy. His eyes met hers. Clara, I need you to do something for me. What? Take Tommy and leave Elk Ridge. Go to Helena, Denver, anywhere that's not here. What? No! This is going to get dangerous. More dangerous than it already is. I can't protect you and hunt Crane at the same time. Then don't protect me. Let me help you. You're not a lawman. No, I'm a nurse, and I'm also the only person Tommy trusts. If you send me away, you lose your only witness. Jesse's jaw clenched. You're impossible. So I've been told. They stood facing each other, both stubborn, both unwilling to back down. If you stay, Jesse said slowly, you do exactly what I say. No arguments, no heroics. I'll do what needs to be done. That's not a yes. It's the best you're going to get. For a moment, she thought he might argue. Instead, he laughed, a short, surprised sound that transformed his face. God help me, he muttered. You're going to be the death of me. Not if I can help it. Their eyes locked. The air between them felt charged, electric. Jesse took a step toward her, then another. Clara. Yes? He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek so gently she almost wondered if she'd imagined it. When this is over, he said quietly, when Crane is behind bars and the threat is neutralized, there are things I need to tell you, things I should have told you already. Clara's heart hammered. Tell me now. I can't. His hand dropped. Not while there's still a target on my back. Not while I might... He stopped. Might what? Clara pressed. Might not survive this. The words hung between them, heavy with all the things they hadn't said. You're going to survive, Clara told him fiercely. Because I refuse to bury another man She stopped herself. But it was too late. Jesse's eyes widened. Another man you... What? Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Had she really almost said... The door burst open. Sheriff! Deputy Miller stood in the doorway, face pale. We found Silas Crane. Jesse was instantly alert. Where? In the alley behind the saloon. Miller swallowed hard. He's dead, sir. Throat cut. And there's a note pinned to his chest. Jesse was already moving. What does it say? Miller's eyes flickered to Clara, then back to Jesse. It says, "The widow is next." The world tilted. Clara felt Jesse's hand grip her arm, steadying her. Get her inside, he ordered. Now, and double the guards on Tommy. Jesse, Clara's voice came out strangled. I won't let them touch you. His eyes burned into hers. Do you hear me? I will die before I let anyone hurt you. Then he was gone, running toward the crime scene, and Clara was left standing in the doorway, the killer's words echoing in her mind. The widow is next. The next few hours were a blur of fear and activity. Jesse had Clara moved to a room in the sheriff's office, the most secure building in town, with Tommy in an adjoining cell that had been hastily converted into a bedroom. I feel like a prisoner, Clara said when Bessie brought her dinner. You're alive, Bessie replied. That's what matters. Someone killed Crane to keep him quiet. That means whoever's behind this is powerful enough to murder their own people. Bessie's face was grim. Jesse's got every deputy searching for clues. He'll find whoever did this. Before or after they find me? Bessie had no answer for that. After she left, Clara sat in the gathering darkness, too frightened to light a lamp, too wired to sleep. A soft knock came at the door. It's me, Jesse's voice. Clara opened the door to find him looking haggard, exhausted, and more worried than she'd ever seen him. We've found something, he said. In Crane's pocket. A letter. What kind of letter? Payment instructions. Someone was paying him $200 a month for information. Jesse's voice was tight. The letter was signed with initials. W.H. Clara's mind raced. W.H. Who in Elk Ridge? William Hartley. Jesse's expression was dark. The mine owner. The mine owner is behind this? It makes sense. Hartley's been trying to buy up property in Elk Ridge for years. If the town becomes too dangerous, outlaws, fires, violence, people sell cheap. He's been profiting from our misery. Can you prove it? Not yet. The letter's circumstantial. I need more. Jesse moved to the window, staring out into the night. Hartley knows I'm getting close. That's why he killed Crane. That's why he's coming after you. Why me? Jesse was silent for a long moment. Because he knows, he finally said, his voice barely audible. Everyone knows. Knows what? Jesse turned to face her. In the dim light, his eyes were silver. That you matter to me. He took a step toward her. That hurting you would destroy me more than any bullet ever could. Clara's breath caught. Jesse, I've tried to stay away from you. Another step. Tried to keep my distance. Told myself it was for your protection. Was it? Partly. He was close now. So close she could feel the heat of his body. But mostly, it was because I was scared. Of what? Of this. His hand came up, cupping her face. Of feeling something again, after 15 years of feeling nothing. Of letting someone in when everyone I've ever let in has ended up hurt or dead. Clara covered his hand with hers. I'm not going to die, she said, and neither are you. You can't promise that. Watch me. And then she kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was 15 years of loneliness crashing against 3 years of grief and something new being born in the wreckage. Jesse made a sound, something between a groan and a prayer, and pulled her closer, his hands tangling in her hair, his mouth hungry and desperate against hers. Clara, he breathed against her lips. Clara, we shouldn't. I know. This is dangerous. I know. I can't lose you. Then don't. She kissed him again, and this time he didn't try to stop her. They stood there in the darkness, holding on to each other like drowning people clinging to wreckage. Knowing the storm wasn't over, knowing worse was coming, but unable to let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jesse pressed his forehead against hers. I've got nothing to offer you, he said. A dangerous job, a haunted past, enemies who want me dead. I don't care. You should. Well, I don't. Clara pulled back to look at him. I spent 3 years after Thomas died thinking I'd never feel anything again. Thinking that part of me was broken forever. And then I came to this godforsaken town and met the most stubborn, infuriating, impossible man I've ever known, and suddenly... Her voice broke. Suddenly what? Jesse asked softly. Suddenly, I wanted to live again. Something in his expression cracked open. Clara. Her name was a prayer on his lips. When this is over, don't. She pressed a finger to his lips. Don't make promises about later. Just stay. Tonight. Just tonight. I can't. If anyone saw, I don't care what anyone sees. But I do. He took her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm. Your reputation matters. Your place in this town matters. I won't let my selfishness destroy that. Clara wanted to argue. Wanted to tell him she didn't care about reputation or propriety or any of the things that had seemed so important before. But she saw the conviction in his eyes, the honor that was so much a part of who he was. Tomorrow, then, she said, when this is over. Tomorrow. He kissed her forehead, her eyelids, the corner of her mouth. I swear to you, Clara, whatever happens tomorrow, you won't face it alone. Neither will you. Jesse left as quietly as he'd come, and Clara sank onto the bed, touching her lips where his had been. She was still sitting there when she heard the scream. It came from Tommy's room. Clara was on her feet and through the connecting door in seconds. The boy was thrashing in his bed, caught in the grip of a nightmare, tears streaming down his face. "No!" he screamed. "Don't! Please, don't hurt her!" Clara gathered him in her arms. "Tommy, wake up. It's just a dream. You're safe." His eyes flew open, wild with terror. "They had you!" he gasped. "In my dream, they had you, and they were—" "It was just a dream." Clara rocked him gently. "I'm right here. I'm fine." But Tommy was shaking his head, his face ashen. "It wasn't just a dream," he whispered. "It was a memory." "What do you mean?" "The meeting I saw between Crane and the fancy man." Tommy's voice trembled. "They weren't just talking about the sheriff. They were talking about you, too." Clara's blood went cold. "What did they say?" "The fancy man said... He said you were becoming a problem. Said you were getting too close to Callahan, making him stronger instead of weaker." Tommy's hands fisted in her nightgown. "He said if Callahan wouldn't break, maybe they needed to break you first." The room seemed to tilt. "When was this meeting, Tommy?" 3 days before the fire." 3 days. The fire that had almost killed Tommy, that had been set at the boarding house where Clara lived. They hadn't been trying to kill Tommy. They'd been trying to kill her. Tommy had just been collateral damage. Clara's hands were shaking as she pulled back to look at the boy. "Tommy, I need you to think very carefully. The fancy man, you said you'd recognize him if you saw him again. Are you absolutely sure?" "I'm sure." Tommy's jaw set. "I'll never forget his face. He smiled while he talked about hurting you. Smiled like he was talking about the weather." Clara made a decision. "Stay here. Lock the door behind me and don't open it for anyone except me or the sheriff." "Where are you going?" "To end this." She was out the door before Tommy could protest. Clara found Jesse in his office, still awake, still poring over documents. "We need to move now," she said. "Tonight." Jesse looked up sharply. "What happened?" Clara told him what Tommy had revealed, that she'd been the target all along, that Hartley had been planning this for days, that Tommy could identify him definitively. Jesse's face went through a rapid series of emotions: fear, anger, determination. "If Tommy can identify Hartley, that's all the proof we need to arrest him." "But we have to get to Hartley before he gets to us. He knows Crane is dead. He knows we're closing in. He'll either run or make a final move." Jesse was already strapping on his gun belt. "I'm going to Hartley's house. Now." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not." "Jesse." "Clara, if anything happened to you—" "And if anything happened to you?" She grabbed his arm. "I am not sitting here waiting to find out if you're alive or dead. Not tonight. Not ever again." Something in her voice must have reached him, because his resistance crumbled. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." "I will." "Promise me." "I promise." They rode out into the night, side by side, toward whatever waited for them at the mine owner's mansion. Neither of them saw the shadow detach itself from the alley behind the sheriff's office. Neither of them saw it slip through the window they'd left unguarded. And neither of them heard Tommy scream as rough hands grabbed him from his bed and dragged him into the darkness. Hartley's mansion loomed at the edge of town, a monument to greed built on the backs of dead miners. Jesse dismounted first, his hand on his gun. "Stay close," he murmured. Clara nodded, her heart pounding. They approached the front door. Jessie knocked once, twice. No answer. Something's wrong. Jessie tried the handle. It swung open easily. Too easy. They stepped inside. The house was dark, silent, empty. "He's gone," Clara breathed. Jessie moved through the rooms quickly, checking corners, clearing spaces. Clara followed, her medical bag clutched to her chest like a talisman. In the study, they found what they were looking for. Papers scattered across the desk. A safe standing open, emptied. And on the floor, a single photograph. Clara picked it up. It showed a younger Hartley standing with a group of men, Confederate soldiers. And in the center of the group, a face she recognized. "Morgan," she whispered. Jessie took the photograph, his face darkening. Brothers in arms. That's how Hartley knew Morgan. They served together. So this was never just about money. It was about revenge. Jessie's voice was bitter. The war ended, but for men like them, it never stopped. A sound from outside made them both freeze. Hoofbeats, fast, coming closer. Jessie grabbed Clara's arm, pulling her behind the desk just as the front door crashed open. "Sheriff Callahan!" Deputy Miller's voice, frantic. "Sheriff, are you here?" Jessie emerged from hiding. "What is it?" Miller's face was ghost white. "It's the boy. Tommy. He's gone." Clara's heart stopped. "What do you mean, gone?" "Someone took him. Broke in through the window while we were changing shifts." Miller's voice cracked. "I'm sorry, Sheriff. I'm so sorry." Clara was already running. She didn't hear Jessie calling her name. Didn't feel the night air tearing at her lungs. She just ran, back toward town, back toward the place where she'd left a frightened boy with a promise to protect him. A promise she'd broken. By the time she reached the sheriff's office, a crowd had gathered. Bessie stood weeping in Samuel's arms. The deputies milled about, looking lost. Clara pushed through them all, into Tommy's room. The window hung open. The bed was overturned. And on the pillow, a note. She snatched it up with trembling hands. "Bring the widow to the old mill at dawn, alone, or the boy dies screaming." Clara read it 3 times before the words sank in. They wanted her. They'd always wanted her. And now they had Tommy as bait. "Let me see that." Jessie's voice behind her. He took the note, his face hardening as he read. "You're not going," he said immediately. "Of course I'm going." "Clara." "They have Tommy!" Her voice broke. "A 12-year-old boy who trusted me to keep him safe. I told him I'd never leave him. I told him—" She couldn't finish. The guilt was choking her. Jessie's hands gripped her shoulders. "This is what they want. They're using him to get to you. If you walk into that mill, you'll both die." "If I don't walk into that mill, he dies anyway." Clara met his eyes. "Jessie, I can't. I can't let another person die because of me." "Because of you." "Clara, none of this is your fault." "Isn't it?" Tears streamed down her face. "Thomas died because I couldn't save him. Because I wasn't good enough, fast enough, strong enough. And now Tommy—" "Stop." Jessie's voice was fierce. "Your husband died of fever. There was nothing you could have done. And Tommy is still alive. We can still save him." "How?" "Not by sacrificing yourself." His hands moved to cup her face. "We do this together. We find another way." "There is no other way. The note says alone." "The note says what Hartley wants you to believe." Jessie's jaw set. "I've been tracking outlaws for 10 years. There's always another way." Clara wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that his experience could find a solution she couldn't see. But all she could think about was Tommy's face, his small hand clutching hers, his voice begging her not to leave him. "What's your plan?" she asked. Jessie was quiet for a moment, thinking. "The old mill has two entrances, front and back. If you go in the front, alone, like they want, you come in the back. My deputies come in the back. I'll be closer, hidden, waiting for the right moment." "That's risky." "Everything about this is risky, but it's better than letting you walk in there with no backup at all." Clara considered it. The plan was thin. So many things could go wrong. But it was better than nothing. "What if they check? What if they make sure I'm really alone?" "You'll have to convince them." "How?" Jessie's eyes held hers. "By being the bravest woman I've ever known. The woman who faced down Morgan with a gun to her head. The woman who walked back into danger to save a stranger." His thumb brushed her cheek. "You can do this, Clara. I believe in you." "And if I can't?" "Then I'll burn that mill to the ground trying to get to you." It wasn't a romantic declaration. It was a promise, a vow. And Clara believed him. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's do it." The hours until dawn passed in a haze of preparation and fear. Jessie briefed his deputies, positioning them at strategic points around the mill. Samuel, surprisingly sober and steady, volunteered to coordinate from town in case reinforcements were needed. Through it all, Clara sat alone in the darkness, preparing herself for what was to come. "You should rest," Bessie's voice, gentle in the darkness. "I can't." "Can't or won't?" Clara smiled weakly. "Both." Bessie sat down beside her, taking her hand. "I've known Jesse Callahan for 8 years. Watched him build walls around himself so high nobody could climb them. Watched him push away every person who tried to get close." She squeezed Clara's fingers. "Until you. I'm not special." "You're wrong. You're exactly what that man needs. Someone who doesn't take his nonsense. Someone who makes him feel something again." Bessie's eyes glistened. "Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already given him a gift. You made him human again." Clara's throat tightened. "What if I don't come back?" "Then I'll make sure he knows you loved him." Bessie's voice was steady, despite her tears. "Because you do, don't you? Love him?" Clara couldn't speak, could only nod. "Then fight for it. Fight for him. Fight for that boy. And come home." Clara hugged her fiercely. "I'll try. Trying is all any of us can do." Dawn came too quickly. Clara stood at the edge of town, dressed in practical clothes, her medical bag over her shoulder. Jesse had insisted she bring it. "You might need it," he'd said, "and it'll make you look less threatening." "I'm not threatening. You're the most threatening person I know." She'd almost laughed at that. Now, watching the sun rise over the mountains, she felt anything but threatening. She felt small, scared, desperately wishing she was anywhere else. "It's time." Jesse appeared beside her, already mounted on his horse. "I'll give you a 15-minute head start. Then I'll circle around to the back." "And if something goes wrong?" "Then you scream as loud as you can, and I'll come running." "That's not much of a backup plan." "No." His eyes burned into hers. "But it's all I've got." He reached down, and she took his hand. "Clara." His voice was rough. "When this is over—" "Don't." She squeezed his fingers. "Tell me later, when we're all safe." "Is that a promise?" "It's a demand." Something that might have been a smile flickered across his face. "Then I better make sure we all survive." He released her hand. "Go. Be careful." "You too." Clara mounted her horse and rode toward the mill without looking back. If she looked back, she'd never be able to leave. The old mill stood at the base of a rocky outcrop, its wheel long since stopped turning, its walls weathered by decades of neglect. Clara dismounted outside, her legs shaking. "I'm here," she called out. "I came alone, like you asked. Now let the boy go." Silence. Then, from inside the mill, a voice. "Come in, Mrs. Thornton. Slowly. Hands where we can see them." Clara raised her hands and walked forward. The interior of the mill was dim, dust motes floating in the thin shafts of light from gaps in the walls. And in the center of the floor, bound to a chair, was Tommy. His face was bruised, his lip split. But his eyes were open, and when he saw Clara, they filled with tears. "I told you not to come," he whispered. "I told them you wouldn't—" "Quiet, boy." A man stepped out of the shadows. Tall, well-dressed, smile that didn't reach his eyes. William Hartley. "Mrs. Thornton." He spread his hands in a mockery of welcome. "So good of you to join us." "Let him go. Straight to business. I admire that." Hartley circled her slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. "But I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, the boy has seen too much. He knows too much. He's a liability. He's a child. Children grow into witnesses." Hartley's smile widened. "And witnesses grow into problems." Clara's eyes darted around the mill. 3 other men stood in the shadows, armed, watching. No sign of Jesse. "What do you want?" she asked, stalling for time. "What I've always wanted. This land, this town, everything that should have been mine after the war." Hartley's voice turned bitter. "My family owned half this territory before the fighting. When the Union won, they took everything, left us with nothing." "So you decided to take it back through murder and intimidation?" "I decided to take back what's rightfully mine." Hartley stopped in front of her. "Callahan's been a thorn in my side for 3 years. Every scheme, every plan, he ruins it. But now I have leverage. Me. You." Hartley reached out, touching her cheek with cold fingers. "He cares about you. Everyone can see it. So when I kill you in front of him, you'll break him." "Exactly." Hartley's eyes gleamed. "A broken sheriff is a useless sheriff, and a useless sheriff can be easily removed." Clara's mind raced. Jesse should be in position by now. Any moment. "There's just one problem with your plan," she said. "Oh? You assume I need Jesse to save me." And she drove her knee into Hartley's groin as hard as she could. He doubled over with a howl of pain. Clara was already moving, diving toward Tommy, her fingers finding the knots binding his hands. "Stop her!" Hartley screamed. Hands grabbed her. She fought, kicked, scratched, got one arm free, and swung her medical bag like a weapon, connecting with someone's jaw. "Clara!" Tommy shouted. Someone hit her across the face. Stars exploded behind her eyes. "You stupid woman!" Hartley was on his feet again, face contorted with rage. "You think you can fight your way out of this?" "I think I can try." He backhanded her. She tasted blood. "Hold her. Make her watch while I kill the boy." "No!" Clara struggled against the men holding her. "No, please!" Hartley drew a knife and advanced on Tommy. The boy didn't cry, didn't beg, just looked at Clara with those 2 old eyes. "It's okay," he said quietly. "You tried. That's more than anyone else ever did." "Tommy!" The back door of the mill exploded inward. Jesse came through it like vengeance made flesh, gun blazing. One of Hartley's men went down, then another. Chaos erupted. Clara twisted free of her captor, grabbing a broken board from the floor and swinging it at his head. He crumpled. "Get Tommy!" Jesse shouted, still firing. Clara ran to the boy, sawing at his ropes with a small knife she kept in her medical bag. Come on, come on! The ropes gave way. She pulled Tommy to his feet. The window, go! I'm not leaving you! Tommy, go! But the boy planted his feet, jaw set. No. Clara could have screamed with frustration and admiration. Fine, stay behind me. She turned to find Jesse locked in hand-to-hand combat with one of Hartley's men. He was holding his own, but barely, his old wound clearly paining him. And Hartley was nowhere to be seen. Jesse, where? A click behind her. Don't move. Hartley's voice. And the cold barrel of a gun pressed against the back of Clara's skull. Jesse froze. Let her go, Hartley. Drop your weapon, Callahan. Now. Jesse's eyes met Clara's. She saw the calculation there, the desperate search for options, and she saw him accept that there were none. His gun clattered to the floor. Kick it away. He did. Hartley laughed, a sound of triumph. This is better than I planned. The great Jesse Callahan, brought to his knees by a woman. He pushed Clara forward, keeping the gun trained on her. Now walk. Outside, both of you. They emerged into the morning light, Hartley behind them with his gun. You know what I realized? Hartley said conversationally. Killing the widow wasn't enough. I needed to make it memorable, public. He gestured toward the ridge above the mill. There are 20 townspeople up there right now. My men spread the word, told them there'd be a show. Clara looked up. He was right. Figures lined the ridge, watching. They're going to watch you die, Callahan. And then they're going to watch me take over this town. Hartley's voice hardened. And no one is going to stop me. You're wrong. The voice came from behind Hartley. Samuel Whitmore stood 10 feet away, a rifle aimed at the mine owner's head. Doc? Hartley sounded genuinely surprised. What are you doing here? Something I should have done a long time ago. Samuel's hands were steady, his eyes clear. I've been drowning in a bottle for 2 years while men like you destroyed this town. Not anymore. You can't even shoot straight when you're sober. Want to bet your life on that? Hartley's gun wavered. If you shoot me, she dies. If I don't shoot you, we all die eventually. Samuel took a step forward. I've got nothing left to lose, Hartley. My wife is gone, my reputation is gone. All I've got is this one chance to do something right. Clara could see Hartley calculating, assessing, and she knew what she had to do. Samuel, she said calmly. Thank you. Then she threw herself backward into Hartley. They went down together. The gun fired, wild, missing everything. Clara rolled, fighting for the weapon, Hartley's hands clawing at her face. Jesse! She screamed. He was there in an instant, tearing Hartley away from her, throwing him to the ground. It's over, Jesse growled, his boot on Hartley's chest. You're done. Hartley laughed, a broken, bitter sound. You think this ends anything? I'm not the only one. Morgan's out there. Others too. You'll never stop us all. Maybe not. Jesse pulled out handcuffs. But I'm stopping you. Right now. As the deputies finally arrived to take Hartley into custody, Clara sat on the ground, shaking. Tommy appeared beside her, his small hand finding hers. You came back for me, he said. Again. I'll always come back for you. Clara pulled him close. Always. Over Tommy's head, her eyes found Jesse's. He stood watching her, his expression unreadable. Then he walked toward her, slowly, like a man approaching something precious and fragile. You're hurt, he said, kneeling beside her. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Clara touched her face. Her fingers came away red. Oh, I didn't notice. You didn't... Jesse made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. You threw yourself at an armed man and you didn't notice you were bleeding? I was busy. You were insane. I was saving us. Jessie's hands cupped her face, gentle despite the blood. I know, he whispered. I know you were. And he kissed her. Right there, in front of Tommy, in front of the deputies, in front of the whole town watching from the ridge. Clara kissed him back, not caring about anything except the feel of his lips on hers, and the solid warmth of his body, and the simple, profound relief of being alive. When they finally broke apart, Tommy was making exaggerated gagging sounds. "That's disgusting," the boy announced. Clara laughed, a real laugh, the first in what felt like forever. "Get used to it, kid." Jessie helped her to her feet, keeping one arm around her waist. "We should get you to the doctor." "I am the doctor, basically." "Then we should get you to someone who can examine you objectively." "Fine." Clara leaned into him. "But first, you owe me a conversation about those things you were going to tell me." Jessie was quiet for a moment. "I do." "So?" He looked at her, really looked, like he was seeing her for the first time. "I love you." 3 words, simple, direct, everything. "I've loved you since you bit Morgan's hand on that stagecoach. Loved you since you saved those miners without a moment's hesitation. Loved you since you walked back into danger, rather than leave me to face Morgan alone." His voice cracked. "I don't know how to be the man you deserve. I don't know if I can ever be whole after everything I've done. But I want to try, if you'll let me." Clara's eyes burned with tears. "Jesse Callahan, you impossible, stubborn, beautiful man." She reached up to touch his face. "Of course I'll let you. I love you too." "Even after everything?" "Because of everything." He pulled her close, and she buried her face in his chest, breathing in the smell of smoke and sweat and him. Around them, the townspeople were cheering. Samuel was being clapped on the back by deputies. Tommy was pretending to be disgusted, but couldn't hide his smile. And somewhere in the back of Clara's mind, a voice that sounded like Thomas whispered, "Be happy. You deserve this." For the first time since his death, she believed it. But the moment was shattered by a shout from one of the deputies. "Sheriff! Sheriff, we've got a problem!" Jesse's head snapped up. "What is it?" "Morgan." The deputy's face was grim. "He's been spotted riding toward town, and he's not alone. He's got at least 30 men with him." Clara felt Jesse's arm tighten around her. "Hartley must have sent for him," Jesse said. "A backup plan in case things went wrong." "What do we do?" Jesse looked down at her, then at Tommy, then at the town below them, filled with people who were depending on him. "We fight," he said quietly. "We fight for everything we've built, everything we love." "Together?" He took her hand. "Together." Morgan's men appeared on the ridge like a dark tide rolling in. 30 riders, maybe more, armed to the teeth and hungry for blood. Jesse stood in the center of Main Street, watching them come. "Get the women and children into the church," he ordered. "It's the only building with stone walls." "Jesse," Clara grabbed his arm. "What's your plan?" "I'm working on it." "That's not reassuring." "I know." Around them, Elk Ridge erupted into controlled chaos. Mothers gathered children. Men grabbed rifles. The elderly helped the injured move toward the church. Tommy refused to leave Clara's side. "I can fight," he insisted. "I'm not a baby." "You're 12. I've survived worse than this." Clara wanted to argue, wanted to wrap him in cotton and hide him somewhere safe. But she looked at his face, the bruises, the determination, the fierce refusal to be treated as less than he was, and she understood. "Stay close to me," she said, "and do exactly what I say." "Yes, ma'am." Jesse was organizing the men into defensive positions when Samuel appeared at his side. "I can still shoot," the old doctor said. "Give me a rifle." "You sure you're steady enough?" "I'm sober for the first time in 2 years. That's as steady as I've ever been." Jesse handed him a weapon. "Take the roof of the general store. You'll have a good angle from there." "What about you?" "I'm going to talk to Morgan." "Talk?" Clara stepped forward. "Jesse, you can't—" "I can try. Maybe there's a way to end this without a massacre." "He wants you dead. He's wanted it since the stagecoach." "Maybe." Jesse checked his pistol. "But maybe what he really wants is Hartley's money. And with Hartley in custody, that's gone." "You think you can reason with an outlaw?" "I think I have to try." He turned to face her fully. "Clara, if this goes wrong—" "It won't." "If it does, promise me you'll take Tommy and run. Don't look back. Don't try to save me." "I'm not promising that." "Clara, I said no." She grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "We'd do this together, remember? That's what you said. So don't you dare ask me to abandon you now." Jesse's eyes searched hers. Whatever he found there made him exhale slowly. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met." "And you love me anyway." "God help me, I do." He kissed her, hard, fast, desperate, then pulled away. "Stay alive," he said. "That's an order." "Same to you, Sheriff." He walked toward the edge of town, alone. Morgan's riders had stopped just beyond rifle range, a wall of horses and men silhouetted against the morning sun. Jesse kept walking until he was halfway between the town and the gang. Then he stopped. "Morgan!" he called out. "Let's talk!" A long moment of silence. Then Morgan himself rode forward, stopping 20 feet from Jesse. "Callahan!" The outlaw looked worse than when Clara had last seen him, his wounded arm in a makeshift sling, his face gaunt with pain and rage. "I was hoping you'd come out to play." "It's over, Morgan. Hartley's in custody. Whatever he promised you, money, land, revenge, it's gone." "You think this is about money?" Morgan laughed bitterly. "You took my men, killed my brother, put a bullet in my shoulder that might never heal right. This stopped being about business a long time ago." "Then what do you want?" "I want you dead." Morgan's eyes blazed. "I want to watch you bleed out in the dirt while your woman screams. I want to burn this town to ashes and salt the earth so nothing ever grows here again." "That's a lot of wanting for one man." "I've had time to think about it." Jesse kept his hands carefully visible, away from his gun. "There are federal marshals coming from Denver. They'll be here by nightfall. If you attack this town, you'll be hunted down like dogs." "Then I better make this quick." Morgan raised his hand, a signal to his men. Jesse tensed. "Wait!" Clara's voice rang out across the empty space. Both men turned. Clara walked toward them, ignoring Jesse's furious gesture to get back. "Mrs. Thornton?" Morgan's smile was cruel. "Come to watch your man die? I came to offer you something. There's nothing you have that I want." "Really?" Clara stopped beside Jesse, close enough that their shoulders touched. "Not even Hartley's ledger? The one with records of every payment, every scheme, every man he's ever worked with?" Morgan's expression flickered. "What ledger?" "The one we found in his safe. Names, dates, amounts. Evidence that could put dozens of men in prison." Clara held his gaze. "Including you." "You're bluffing." "Am I? You want to bet 30 men's freedom on that?" The silence stretched. Morgan's hand slowly lowered. "What do you want?" he asked. I want you to leave. Take your men and go. Don't come back. And in exchange, the ledger disappears. No one knows what's in it. You walk away clean. Morgan studied her for a long moment.
You'd let me go? After everything?
I'd rather let you go than watch more people die. Clara's voice was steady.
There's been enough death, don't you think?
Something shifted in Morgan's face. For just a moment, she saw the man he might have been. Before the war, before the violence, before the hatred consumed everything good in him. You're different, he said quietly, from other women. I'm the same as any woman who's loved and lost and survived. The same as the wives and mothers in this town who just want to live in peace. Morgan was silent. Then he laughed, a harsh, broken sound. You know what? I almost believe you. He shook his head. But it doesn't matter. This was never just about Hartley or money or even revenge.
Then what was it about?
The war. Morgan's voice cracked. The damn war that took everything from us. Our land, our families, our futures. You Union folks act like it's over, like we should just accept defeat and move on. But some of us can't. Some of us will never stop fighting. Fighting won't bring back what you lost. Maybe not, but it'll make sure you lose things too. Morgan raised his hand again. I'm sorry, he said. I really am. The riders surged forward. Fall back! Jesse shouted, grabbing Clara's arm. Fall back to the buildings! They ran. Behind them, gunfire erupted. The thunder of hooves, the screams of men and horses. Clara's lungs burned as she sprinted toward the sheriff's office. Jesse pulled her inside, slamming the door behind them. The window, he commanded. Stay low! Through the chaos, Clara could see townspeople fighting back. Samuel, on the roof of the general store, firing methodically. Bessie, of all people, wielding a shotgun from behind an overturned wagon. The blacksmith swinging a hammer at any outlaw who came close. And in the middle of it all, Tommy. The boy was dragging an injured deputy toward the church, his small body straining with the effort. Tommy, no! Clara screamed. An outlaw spotted him, raised his gun. Clara didn't think. She just moved. She burst through the door, running faster than she'd ever run, throwing herself between Tommy and the bullet. The impact spun her around. She hit the ground hard, pain exploding through her shoulder. Clara! Tommy's voice, terrified. Clara, no! She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The world was spinning, darkening at the edges. Stay with me, Tommy begged, pressing his small hands against the wound. Please, you promised you'd never leave me. Somewhere far away, she heard Jesse roar her name. Then everything went black. When Clara opened her eyes, she was in the church. The light was dim. Voices murmured nearby. Something was pressing against her shoulder. Bandages, she realized. Someone had treated her wound. She's awake! Tommy's face appeared above her, tear-streaked and terrified. Clara, can you hear me? Tommy. Her voice came out as a croak.
Are you okay? Am I okay? You took a bullet for me.
Had to. She tried to smile. Can't let anything happen to my boy. Tommy's face crumpled. I thought you were dead. There was so much blood, and you weren't moving, and... I'm here. She reached up with her good arm, touching his cheek. I'm right here. Don't ever do that again. Can't promise that. Clara, I'll always protect you, Tommy. Always. That's what family does. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Tommy's eyes widened. Family? If you want. I know I'm not your mother. I'm not trying to replace her. But I'd like to be something, if you'll let me." For a long moment, the boy just stared at her. Then he threw himself forward, wrapping his arms around her neck, sobbing into her hair. "I thought I'd never have a family again," he choked out. "I thought nobody would ever want me." "I want you." Clara held him tight, ignoring the pain in her shoulder. "I want you so much." "Promise?" "I promise." They stayed like that until a voice interrupted. "Clara!" Jessie stood in the doorway, covered in dust and blood. None of it his own, thank God. "Is it over?" she asked. "It's over." He walked toward her slowly, like a man in a dream. "Morgan's dead. Most of his men surrendered when they saw their leader fall. The ones who didn't," he shook his head, "they won't be troubling anyone anymore." "The town?" "Damaged, but standing. 2 dead, a dozen wounded." His voice caught. "And you? God, Clara, when I saw you fall." "I'm okay." "You're not okay. You have a bullet hole in your shoulder." "I've had worse." "When?" "Okay, I haven't had worse, but I'm still alive, and that's what matters." Jessie knelt beside her, his hand finding hers. "You threw yourself in front of a bullet for Tommy." "Yes." "You could have died." "Yes." "Why?" Clara looked at the boy still pressed against her side, at Jessie's stricken face, at the church full of people who'd fought together to save their town. "Because some things are worth dying for," she said quietly. "Family, love, a place to belong." She squeezed his hand. "I spent 3 years after Thomas died thinking I had nothing left to live for. Coming here, meeting you, meeting Tommy, I realized I had it backwards. I didn't need something to live for. I needed something to fight for." Jessie's eyes glistened. "I love you," he said hoarsely. "I love you so damn much." "I know." "Marry me." The words came out raw, unplanned, desperate. Clara stared at him. "What?" "Marry me. Not someday, not when things settle down. Now, tomorrow. As soon as you can stand in front of a preacher." "Jessie, I've been shot. I'm lying on a church floor covered in blood." "I don't care. I've wasted too much of my life being afraid, pushing people away, telling myself I didn't deserve happiness." He brought her hand to his lips. "I don't want to waste another second. Marry me, Clara. Be my wife. Be Tommy's mother. Build a life with me." Clara's heart was pounding so hard she was sure it would tear her stitches. She looked at Tommy, who was grinning despite his tears. "Say yes," the boy whispered. "Please say yes." She looked back at Jessie, this stubborn, broken, beautiful man who'd saved her in more ways than he would ever know. "Yes." Jessie's face transformed. Joy, pure and unfiltered, breaking through years of walls and grief. "Yes?" he repeated, like he couldn't quite believe it. "Yes, Jessie Callahan. I'll marry you. I'll be your wife. I'll be Tommy's mother. I'll build a life with you." She reached up to touch his face. "I'll fight for you, and I'll fight beside you, for as long as I live." He kissed her then, gently, mindful of her wound, but with a tenderness that said more than any words could. Around them, the people in the church began to clap and cheer. Clara laughed, tears streaming down her face. She'd come to Elk Ridge expecting nothing. She'd found everything. 2 weeks later, Clara stood in the repaired church, wearing a white dress borrowed from Bessie, with wildflowers in her hair. The whole town had come, miners and merchants, deputies and dance hall girls. Samuel Whitmore, 6 weeks sober and steadier every day. Patricia Holloway, who'd surprised everyone by donating money to rebuild the boarding house and had quietly started courting the new bank manager. And in the front row, Tommy sat in his first ever Sunday suit, looking uncomfortable but proud. Jesse waited at the altar, looking like a man who'd just been told all his prayers had been answered at once. "You ready?" Bessie whispered, squeezing her arm. Clara looked down the aisle at the man she loved. "I've been ready my whole life. I just didn't know it." The ceremony was simple. Clara walked toward Jesse, her heart full to bursting. When she reached him, he took her hands, and she felt the slight tremor in his fingers. "Nervous?" she murmured. "Terrified." "Good, me too." The preacher began to speak, but Clara barely heard the words. All she could see was Jesse's face. The way he looked at her, like she was the most precious thing in the world. "Do you, Jesse Callahan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was strong, certain. "And do you, Clara May Thornton, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Clara thought of Thomas, of the life they'd built and lost, of the long, dark years after his death. Then she looked at Jesse, at the future stretching out before them. "I do." The preacher pronounced them man and wife. Jesse kissed her, and the church erupted in cheers. When they finally broke apart, breathless and grinning, Tommy pushed his way between them. "Does this mean I have to call you Ma now?" he asked suspiciously. Clara laughed. "Only if you want to." "What if I want to call you Clara?" "Then call me Clara." "What if I want to call you Ma sometimes and Clara other times?" "Then do that." Tommy considered this. "What about Jesse? Do I have to call him Pa?" Jesse's expression softened. "You can call me whatever feels right, son." "Son." Tommy's eyes widened. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. I think I'd like that. Pa." Jesse's eyes glistened. He pulled the boy into a fierce hug. "Welcome to the family, Tommy." "Welcome to the family, Jesse." Clara wrapped her arms around both of them, her boys, her family, her heart. She'd survived so much, lost so much. But standing here, in this moment, she realized that the losses had led her exactly where she needed to be. Home. The reception was held in the town square, with tables laden with food and a band playing fiddles and guitars. Clara danced with Jesse until her shoulder ached, then sat and watched as he danced with Bessie, then with every woman in town who wanted a turn with the sheriff. "He looks happy." Samuel sat down beside her, a glass of lemonade in his hand. "He is happy," Clara said. "For the first time in a long time, I think. You did that, gave him something to hope for again. He did the same for me." Samuel was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the practice, about what comes next." "And?" "I'm too old to run it alone, too damaged. But with help, the right help, maybe I can still do some good." He looked at her. "What would you say to a partnership? Whitmore and Callahan, physicians." Clara stared at him. "You're serious?" "Never been more serious in my life." He raised his glass. "We've both been given second chances, Clara. Seems a shame to waste them." Clara thought about it, about the work she loved, the people she could help, the legacy she could build. "Whitmore and Callahan," she repeated. "I like the sound of that." "Is that a yes?" "It's a yes." They shook hands, sealing the partnership. Across the square, Jessie caught her eye and smiled. Clara smiled back. This was her life now. This town. These people. This man. and for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of tomorrow. That night, after the dancing and the toasts and the tearful goodbyes, Clara and Jesse walked back to their new home, a small house at the edge of town that the community had repaired as a wedding gift. Tommy walked between them, holding both their hands, trying and failing to hide his yawns. "Tired?" Jesse asked. "No," Tommy said unconvincingly. "Of course not. 12-year-olds never get tired." "Exactly." At the house, they tucked Tommy into his new bedroom, the first real bed he'd had in years. "Will you still be here in the morning?" he asked, his voice small. Clara sat on the edge of his bed, brushing hair from his forehead. "I'll be here every morning, every night, for as long as you want me." "What if I want you forever?" "Then forever it is." Tommy's eyes drifted closed. Clara sat with him until his breathing evened out. Then she pressed a kiss to his forehead and quietly left the room. Jesse was waiting for her in the hallway. "He's asleep," she said. "Good." Jesse took her hand. "Walk with me?" They stepped outside into the cool night air. The sky was brilliant with stars. The town was quiet, peaceful, recovering. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up," Jesse said. "That this is all a dream." "It's not a dream." "How do you know?" "Because my shoulder still hurts from getting shot." He laughed, that free, surprised sound she loved. "Fair point." They walked in comfortable silence until they reached the ridge overlooking the town. "I used to come here at night," Jesse said quietly. "After the war. I'd stand here and think about all the things I'd done, all the people I'd killed. I'd wonder if any amount of good could ever balance the scales. And now? Now I think maybe that's the wrong question." He turned to face her. "Maybe it's not about balancing scales. Maybe it's about moving forward, building something new." His hand found her cheek. "Loving someone enough to let the past stay in the past." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "I love you, Jesse Callahan." "I love you, Clara Callahan." Clara Callahan. Her new name. Her new life. "Say it again," she whispered. "I love you, Clara Callahan." She kissed him under the stars, on the ridge where he'd once stood alone with his ghosts. He wasn't alone anymore. Neither was she. That night, as Clara lay in her husband's arms, she thought about the strange journey that had brought her here. A stagecoach robbery, a stubborn sheriff, a wounded boy who needed a mother. Loss and love, grief and grace, all tangled together until she couldn't separate them anymore. She thought about Thomas, and for the first time, the memory didn't hurt. "Thank you," she whispered into the darkness, "for loving me first, for teaching me I was worth loving." She could almost feel his blessing, gentle as a summer breeze. Then Jesse's arms tightened around her, and she turned toward the warmth of him, toward their future. Tomorrow, she would treat patients and argue with Samuel and chase Tommy around the yard. Tomorrow, she would kiss her husband good morning and complain about his snoring and bicker about whose turn it was to make breakfast. Tomorrow, she would live. But tonight, she simply breathed. In, out. The rhythm of a heart that had learned to hope again. Outside, the first light of dawn was painting the mountains gold. A new day, a new beginning. And Clara May Callahan, widow turned wife, stranger turned healer, woman who had lost everything and found it again, faced it without fear. Because she had learned the truth that had eluded her for so long. Home wasn't a place. It wasn't a building, or a town, or a territory. Home was the people who held you when you fell, the ones who fought beside you, The ones who loved you even when you couldn't love yourself. Home was Jessie's steady heartbeat beneath her ear. Home was Tommy's laughter echoing through the halls. Home was right here, right now, in this small house on the edge of a mining town, surrounded by people who had become her family. Clara smiled and closed her eyes. She was finally home.